our Constitution is exceptional. I mean, you cannot argue that objectively. Ours has been an extraordinarily successful form of government because it's based upon these concrete political philosophies. And the founders derived these ideas from much exhaustive research and study and debate. This wasn't something they just sat down with a pen and just drafted on a whim. I want you to know and think about this. If you go to the United Nations where they're meeting, at any given time there are about 190 countries, give or take one or two, depending on who's being overthrown at the time. But there's about 190 countries seated at the UN. Of all the nations there, we are the only ones still operating under our original document. There's something unique about the Constitution. All those other countries over the last 230 years, they've undergone insurrections and regime changes and multiple forms of government and constitutions, and we haven't. Why is that? Because we are exceptional. And the big question tonight is, next slide, why should you care? Why do we care? Why should we have, 4 or 5 times the number of students here than we do? Because we're blessed beyond measure to live in the freest, safest, most prosperous nation in the world. But freedom, your next blank on your handout there, freedom isn't free. It sounds like a cliche, but it's true. We've heard it twice already tonight. If you don't learn to appreciate and defend those freedoms, they can and will be taken away from you. That's the lesson of history. So we have a very short time, and I wanted to just fly through a couple of things real quick. And I'm going to turn it over to Mike Woods here in just a bit. But I just chose 5 freedoms that I wanted to just remind us of, just to review. 5 freedoms that are ensured to us by the Constitution. We're short on time, and these are some of the essentials. There are others, okay? But what I want you to think about and remember as we go through these real quickly is that these are rights that are often taken for granted. Most people do. And they are rare, both in history and around the globe today, as Royal was saying earlier. Let me go through these, and these are the blanks that you would fill in if you're following along. Okay, the first one, next slide. The Constitution protects your right or allows you to worship freely, as was mentioned earlier. The religious freedom or religious liberty is often called our first liberty. The Bill of Rights is the first 10 amendments to the Constitution. And if you read the Bill of Rights in their order as they're written, religious freedom is the first one listed. The right to worship freely is essential, has been, always has been, throughout our history. America's been a land defined by religious faith and freedom. It is one of the pillars, one of the foundations upon which our nation is built. Remember, we were founded as a sanctuary for people who were fleeing religious persecution and people who were yearning for a place where their freedom of conscience would be protected. And by the way, hey, here's a news flash for Alan mentioned the ACLU. I'm not going to get started on that, but they have been my nemesis organization in court for the last decade. But the founders openly encouraged the public expression of faith. They openly encouraged it. They did not say that there's a dichotomy between your public life and your religious faith or your religious life. They did not believe that you should keep it boxed in on Sunday morning and when you come into the public square only talk about secular things from a secular perspective. That's what they want us to believe today, but that is far different from what the founders believed. In fact, they understood that religious liberty, as noted in the Bill of Rights, was the first and most essential freedom, the right of conscience. And in fact, it's a right that's still guaranteed today. Now, why is that? Let me go to the next one and remind us of the Declaration, the nation's birth certificate. Okay, this is where it all came from. The reason that religious freedom was guaranteed as our first liberty in the Bill of Rights was because the founders understood that the freedom of conscience and worship were essential to who we are, not only as Americans, but as the creation of a God, a creator with a capital C. Remember the central premise of the Declaration itself, these famous words. We hold these truths to be self-evident. Hello, you cannot not know this. Everybody knows it. Intuitively, you know this, that all men are created equal. They're endowed by their creator, God, with certain inalienable rights. And among these are the rights to life and liberty and the pursuit of happiness. See, this is a revolutionary idea that there's a transcendent creator that hovers above the affairs of man, and that because those rights come from him, they are beyond the dominion of human government. This idea, next slide, this idea of God-given rights was such an earth-shattering, revolutionary thing at the time that they wrote the Declaration and the Constitution. This idea that people enjoy rights to life and liberty and the pursuit of happiness and private property and free enterprise. You mean God gives you those rights? You mean the king, the tyrant, the monarch doesn't have the right to take it away from you? That's absolutely right. Our rights and privileges come from our Creator, not from some king. And what an astounding concept that was at the time. So it yielded the First Amendment. And you know, you may know this language well. Congress, it begins, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion. The government should not be meddling in the affairs of religion, not the other way around, okay? Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise of thereof. But let me tell you something, if you're not aware of this. Today there is an all-out assault, there's an attack on religious expression and free exercise of religion and the right of conscience. Why? Why is that? Why are some of these people so literally hell-bent on silencing the expression of religion or religious faith? Well, because they have a secular worldview, a secular idea. They have a secular concept. They want America not to be this nation with this deep religious heritage and this appreciation for the right of conscience. They want us to be a totally secularized nation like much of the nations in Europe. Anybody see the riots a couple weeks ago? What happens when you remove religion and morality from a society? It leads ultimately to chaos. And that's what the founders said. George Washington, the father of our country, said, of all the dispositions and habits which lead to political prosperity, religion and morality are indispensable supports. Those are the foundations upon which the American Republic is created. And if there ever comes a day in this country when those foundations, those pillars are whittled away, then we are in trouble. And it winds up like what we see, the chaos around the globe. And listen, in courtrooms and schoolrooms and offices and shops and public buildings and even churches right now, those who believe in God are increasingly being threatened and punished in silence. A real quick example for you. This is the Forsyth County Government Center in Forsyth County, North Carolina. The Forsyth County is my client. I've been representing them since 2007. In the summer, when the ACLU sued, this is in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, sued the Forsyth County Board of Commissioners. You know why they sued them? Because they opened their meetings with an invocation. The horrors, right? And it's exactly what we just did. But now here's the really bad thing. This is what got the ACLU all riled up to file this federal lawsuit and have us embroiled in litigation since 2007. They said in their lawsuit, the outrageous thing about Forsyth County and their meetings is that at 16 out of 26 of the meetings in the year 2007, they know this because there were ACLU spies there recording what was said in the prayers. At 16 out of 26 prayers, they said in the lawsuit, somebody closed the prayer in the name of Jesus.